You've finally broken loose from work. 3 friends, 1 tea time, and then the text. Honey, there's water in the basement. Not exactly how you pictured your Saturday. That's when you call us, Cincinnati Insurance. We always answer the call, because real protection means showing up, even when things are in the rough. Cincinnati Insurance. Let us make your bad day better. Find an agent at CINFIN.com.
Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. You need the right person with the right background who can move your business forward. If you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed Sponsored Jobs. With Indeed Sponsored Jobs, your post stands out to quality candidates who actually fit the role. According to Indeed data, 90% are more likely to be hired and trusted by 1.6 million companies. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. Now with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/Podcats13. Just go to Indeed.com/Podcats13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Podcats13. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed.
CJ Moneyway Show. We welcome Phyllis, an accomplished author and psychotherapist based in Massachusetts with years of earned helping individuals navigate their mental health journeys. Phyllis shares insights on the power of therapy, the importance of emotional healing, and strategies for cultivating well-being. Her approach combines practical techniques and compassionate guidance, making this conversation an essential listen for anyone interested in personal growth and mental wellness. Tune in to explore the path to healing and learn how to take charge of your mental health.
Welcome, my good people. Welcome to the CJ Moneyway Show in association with GI, the state's capital, where we bring you stories behind the success. Today, we're honored to be joined by Phyllis Okon, a pioneer in business and now in the spiritual world, from running one of the world's most respected limousine companies to becoming a certified medium. Her journey is nothing short of extraordinary. Phyllis, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Phyllis, let's start by here. You've worn many hats. Teacher, CEO, author, medium. Take us back to the beginning, what it was like launching BLS Limousine from your kitchen table.
Well, I was actually a social studies teacher, and my husband needed help with the back office. This was the days before cell phones, so he couldn't be out in the car. He needed someone to take the calls. You know, we had beepers back then. We didn't have cell phones. And so he asked me if I would run the back office for him, you know, answer the phones and do the billing and whatever. As we grew, there was payroll, things like that. So I said I would do that as long as we had a child. You know, I wanted to have, if I was going to stay home, back then people didn't work from home. So I said, as long as I was going to be home, I wanted to start a family. So we began our family, and I picked up the yellow pages for Los Angeles. And I sat down every day while my son was watching Sesame Street or whatever. And I did A to Z through the yellow pages. And many of the companies we have with us today, because I still run the company, started from the 50 years ago, 45 years ago, when I was sitting with those yellow pages.
So that's how it all started, from a kitchen table. Right. And you told hubby, like, look, if I'm going to be at home, what did you have? A baby boy, baby girl?
I have 2 sons, yeah.
I want me 2 baby boys, and then I think about it. So that's a good way to start. So let me ask you, Phyllis, What were some of the biggest lessons in transitioning from teacher to entrepreneur?
Well, I didn't get a salary for quite a long time. So the first thing I had to know that if you want your business to work, you have to put in, we never had OPM. We never had other people's money. Everything I have in my home, every brick in this house came from our hard work. We started at sub-zero. My husband was an immigrant. He didn't have much. Certainly my parents, put me through college, but that, I was out on my own. I had 2 jobs back then. I used to work 2 jobs through college. So, my parents struggled. They had a hardware store and, it was tough for them. So we all contributed to the household. In fact, when I had my son, I didn't even have coverage. I didn't have health insurance. So we learned that you have to sacrifice. We didn't have credit cards back then. Now people have credit. We didn't have any credit cards. We didn't have anything. So we didn't buy. If we couldn't afford it, we couldn't buy. We didn't live above our means. Mm-hmm. So the whole idea was you don't take until everything's been paid. That was the biggest thing I learned. When I made a salary, I knew every week I had a certain amount. And that was really the difference between me and my friends. My friends would be like, I could never live like you, that you don't know what you're going to have by the end of the week. There were times I would go to the grocery store with change. I'd be the person at the counter counting out the pennies to pay for, the food for the night. So we sacrificed everything to build a business from ground zero without anyone's help. Mm-hmm. He was a mechanic, he drove, and I answered phones and I dispatched and I would call around looking for work. He sat me down at the phone and said, you have to call and get people to use us. And I didn't know what I was doing, but you can't be afraid. Mm-hmm. You can't, if you're going to do your own business, you can't wait for other people to do it for you. You're going to have to wear many hats. And that's where I learned to do, to pivot and to do as much as I could.
Yeah. And that's a good thing. As I was just telling somebody this not too long ago, a lot of times when you're doing the things as far as starting a business from ground up and learning the ins and outs, because you're doing everything. So when you are to the point where you're able to delegate these things, every aspect of what's going on because I've already had my hands in this, and so I already know.
Well, it's the truth. Our sons work in the business, but they did every job. Before they were able to get to the point where they're at, they changed tires, they did windshields, they did tune-ups, they dispatched, they cleaned the bathrooms. They had to learn from the ground up how to do everything.
Yeah, because I'm in that holding pattern, myself, so I know what you're talking about when you have to do everything. But it's a good thing, though, because, as time go on, you keep going. That's why I, love the title of this show, one of the titles of this show, or the tagline, Stories Behind the Success, because some people may see Phyllis what she is now, and like, but they don't know where you came from. They don't know the hardships and the tears and the trials and tribulations that one had to go through to get to where they are now. And so I commend you on your fortitude and your toughness, to persevere and move through. And since I brought up persevering, I know this may be a touchy situation here, but it filled you in a way as well. That's what I was reading. After your husband passing, you stepped into both grief and growth. What led you to pursue mediumship?
My whole family loved mediums. We had been going to mediums for years. When I lost my mother, my father, I went to mediums. I lost my grandmother. We loved mediums. We liked going. The first time we went, I was maybe 30-something years old. And you walk in one way and you leave another. You walk in saying, this is my belief system. But after you have a good evidential medium who's able to provide you with information that nobody could possibly know or give you comfort, healing, and closure, after that, you leave with a whole different attitude. So we had been to mediums. And then right after my husband died, I started going to a lot of mediums because I was looking to hear from him. And every one of them would say, you could do this yourself. You don't need us. In fact, my father would come through and he'd brag, which is what my father would do, and say, you don't know. In fact, she's going to be better than you guys. And we would all laugh about that. So finally, the pandemic happened. So I found that I was home and I started to study with many different mediums you could do on Zoom. Back then, Zoom was available. I had never seen that before. I would never even consider it. So I started, I had a lot of time on my hands. Travel was dead. Cars weren't moving. So while we waited for the business to pick up, I started to study mediumship. And out of 86 students, Thomas John, who was one of my mentors, endorsed me. And once he endorsed me, my kids set up Lady Phyllis, and I started to do readings. Would I have done this 10 years ago? No, I didn't have the time. I was taking care of my husband, but I was running the business with him and taking care of my husband. And you know that I'm an author. I've written and published 83 books. So I was busy with that. But, after he left, I found that I had time on my hands, and certainly it filled a hole in my life. So I love mediumship. I teach mediumship also. I do teach it. I have a Patreon, and now both my sons are doing mediumship.
Let me ask you, you brought up Lady Phyllis, and then you brought up Thomas John.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, what did the journey of becoming Lady Phyllis look like? And how did mentorship from Seatbelt Psychic, Thomas John, actually shape you into what you're doing now?
Well, the big thing, and now that I teach it, I see it. The big thing that holds people back is confidence. They feel like we all are getting downloads all the time. First of all, I'm not gifted. Thomas John, from birth, got his information, however he gets it, a download, whatever Claire he's using, he gets it. And nobody told him to forget about it. Nobody told him that's your imagination. When you were a little kid and you would say, Daddy, come in my room, there's a monster in my room, or I see something under my bed, Dad would come in or Mom would come in, lift the bed, curtain and say, the bed skirt and say, there's nothing here. Look, there's nothing here. So what happens is we stop seeing things. Like, how many times have you been sitting in a room and out of the corner of your eye, you see something, you go, it's just a trick of light or whatever. But we get downloads all the time. We get messages. There are synchronicities, like a sequence of numbers that keep showing up. Or you get in the car and you miss your brother, for argument's sake, and you get in the car and a song comes on with your brother's name in it, and it has a message, and you listen, and all of a sudden you've heard this song 1,000 times, but now it has meaning for you. Those are messages that we get. I always tell people it's sort of like this. You're sitting at the table with your spouse, and she says to you, can you get the ketchup? And you go to the fridge and you open the door and you're staring, and it's cold and you're staring and you don't see the ketchup. And then she'll come over and say, it's right here. What's the matter? It's right here. Well, that's what spirit is. It's right there, but we don't see it. We've been conditioned not to see it. So that's really what happens. And I took about 20 different classes, and each one added something to the journey. And it's kind of like peeling back a flower or an onion, whatever you want to say, where the realization is, you may not realize it at the time, but 4 or 5 classes later, you go, oh, that's what that meant. Now I understand. I also think that being an author helped with me realizing, for instance, when I write fiction, I'll very often have to think about how things feel. Like if you're diving underwater, how does the water feel against your skin? How do your lungs feel? Because you're writing that. So-and-so dove into the water enveloped him, the hair stood up on his arm, he felt the pressure against his, whatever it is, what do you see, hear, and feel? And the thing is, we are so busy. Yeah. We're so busy all day. We're so distracted between TV and YouTube and, of course, this old thing. We're so distracted all day that we don't think about how things make us feel. When I teach mediumship, one of the realizations I came to was it was very similar to being a writer, that I would think about how grass felt under my feet, or how do you feel cold? Describe what feeling cold is. So if you describe what you're feeling, you begin to notice when you feel differently. And what I teach people is to find when it's different. And is that a message coming in? You get the chill up the back of your neck.
20 classes? Boy.
There's 20 different sessions. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you take different bits and pieces from here and there. Right. So, Phyllis, you say that you wrote 83 books.
Yes.
So can you tell us first, what inspired you to begin writing What was your first book, and what are you working on now?
Okay, my first book was Captain No Beard, and my children dared me to write a book. I was grieving the loss of my mother. She was my reading partner. We used to read books all the time together. And when she passed away, I was really missing her. And I was I guess I was in a depression over it. And my kids said to me, Mom, write a book. And my son had just written a book called Just As the Universe, and he was selling pretty briskly on Amazon. And so then he wrote another book called Brood 10. He went into Just As the Universe was self-help. And then he writes screenplays. So he took a screenplay and turned it into a novel. So I wrote Captain No Beard, which was a kid's book about playtime with my grandson. And the book went on to be named to Kirkus's Best, which is a big deal. It won an award. In fact, Create Space called me and said they were really excited because one of their independent authors had, I won an award. I was recognized as, an upcoming and a new author. And so my husband said, you should write. If you got the award, write some more. So we were in Vegas, and I was with my grandson and my granddaughter, and we were walking around, and we passed Paris. They were babies. And we passed Paris, and he asked me, what's that triangle? What is that? So how do you explain a cultural icon to a 4-year-old? How do you explain? So I got an idea. We had an apartment. We had opened up in Vegas, so we had apartments in Vegas at that point. And that night, I came up with an idea, if you were me and lived in. And I started out with 5 countries. And what it was like a 10-part thing to explain culture and customs to a 4-year-old. What your name would be, where you might live. I always picked the capital because I felt that children should know, because you hear in the news something's happening in whatever the big city is. Anyhow, so I wrote, what kind of food you would eat. It was almost like something like from the Food Network, like you would watch Anthony Bourdain or Zimmerman would show the cultural aspects of the country. So I did food. I did the highlight where you would take somebody if they came to visit, what the word for school was in every different language. And so I did the first 5. I took from all ends of the earth. I started with Mexico. I did France. I did Norway. I did Kenya. And I don't remember what the last country was. I think South Korea. So because I tried to get all the different areas. And the books were embraced by the homeschool community. And so I started churning out every weekend more books. So I wrote a total of 22 books, the last one ending up in Mars. What life would be like if you lived on Mars in 2054. So I did that. And then they kept saying to me, do another series. So I did If You Were Me and lived in, and there were historical time periods. So I did ancient Greece. I did Renaissance Italy. I did the American West. I did ancient Mali. I did, I picked cultures. And oddly enough, I picked cultures that I was interested in. And I found out I have an ancestor who came from Mali. I found out I have an ancestor who was a Viking. So it was really interesting that I was picking these areas that I really didn't know much about and writing the books. And the books, again, became a huge success. And then I wrote an early read a chapter book. And then I wrote Young Adults, Grady, Will, and the Templeton Codex, which is about children with special needs. Mm-hmm. And so these kids have special needs, and they're actually invited to be in a superhero high school. And what they end up discovering is that their special needs are actually their superpowers. Mm. So it's a really nice book. There's a screenplay floating around Hollywood. We'll see if it gets made. And so I also wrote a self-help book on how to write a book and how to publish and promote, because I promote all of our books. My son has written 20 books, and subsequently, each book I would do the publicity, the PR. And then I decided to write as an adult fiction. So I published 3 books under Brit London. And then I published books to go with my mediumship. So I published these 2 books, they match my course, Mediumship Made Easy and Exposing Mediumship. Oh, there it goes. I can't do the camera.
It's all good. I can see it.
Yeah. And then my son, I'm working on this book now with him, because I'm publicizing it. He wrote Drag Down Deep, which is an adventure, kind of Indiana Jones. It's about a cryptozoologist. So I edit for him. Mm-hmm. And then I do the publicizing. So, like you said, I wear many hats.
Many hats. Many hats. That's cool.
So that's what I'm getting that book out there.
I love that cover, and then the one with the kids with disabilities. That cover is a hit now, and I hope that the screenplay becomes something. We'd love to see that. So you said something about you got a master class too?
I do. I have right now. I'm finishing with my level 1. They'll be finished in a week or two. I have a level 2 starting. Not a level 2, but it's an intensive course. It's 10 sessions. And by the end of 10 sessions, people should be able to, they'll be able to recognize, they won't be able to do a full 1 hour reading, but they should be able to recognize what thoughts are not theirs,
Oh, yeah. So, man, Phyllis, 83 books, son, that's 100 books.
Yeah.
Over 100 books in the household. What about the other son? Do he write too?
He's written and published one book, the little one, but he is actually on TikTok as E the Medium right now. He took 3 of my classes, and within 3 classes, he started reading tarot. And he went on, his shtick is he reads tarot with the help of AI. Mm-hmm. And he's gotten over 3,000 followers within 2 weeks. He's already got followers and, works with me. I promote him and he promotes me and we do lives together. And he's excellent. He was the one, my big son took the mediumship course and can read people, but he's shy. He writes screenplays and he writes books. So I work with him with that, but he doesn't want to read people yet. He doesn't want to go public with it. Although he is teaching a course on angels. So both my kids, one of them is doing my Patreon in the next week, and he'll be doing a Patreon on being a medium and teaching people how to use social media, because he does all of our social media stuff, for our regular work, and he set me up. And
hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. You need the right person with the right background who can move your business forward. If you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed Sponsored Jobs. With Indeed Sponsored Jobs, your post stands out to quality candidates who actually fit the role. According to Indeed data, 90% are more likely to be hired and trusted by 1.6 million companies. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. Now with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/Podcats13. Just go to Indeed.com/Podcats13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Podcats13. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed.
He does social media. He's the youngest, so he's very well versed in social media. But he's E the Medium, and he's doing quite well. He's getting readings every single day.
Check out the movement. Family, real quick. Lean in. If you're listening to this right now, then you already know the Moneyway ain't just a podcast. It's a movement. So make sure you tap into everything we building. It's a Moneyway moving music. New tracks dropping every week. It's the CJ Moneyway Show. Global ranked, purpose-driven voices. Moneyway mindset. Daily inspiration. Real talk, no fluff. You can find it all right now on Instagram, YouTube, and everywhere you stream. Just search out your Moneyway. That's where purpose lives. That's where the next level starts. And that's where we leveling up. Together. Now let's get back to the show.
Now, you say that he's going to put out a course about how to use social media, because I think a lot of people, even myself, would like to hear more about that, because that is something, that's a stumbling block for a lot of us. If you can't get into the thing.
He started following Gary Vee. Mm-hmm. And he took a course or something with Gary Vee. Gary Vaynerchuk, I think his name is Gary Vaynerchuk. Look him up. And he follows his dogma, and he's used it for our car service. He's used it. They had a podcast called Okon Bros, my kids, where they started out just kind of talking, bullshitting, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. And then it turned into, they started inviting people on. They started doing interviews like you're doing. They ended up doing a lot of mediums, and they built a pretty big following, but they found that they didn't have a direction with it.
Mm-hmm.
it ended up too much that they felt it wasn't going to go anywhere. Like it reached this and it wasn't going to go any further. So they still work together, but they do different things. So like I said, one son is going to teach a course on angels. The other one is doing a presentation on social media and mediumship and showing them how to do it. My sons are very courageous.
Mm-hmm.
They're not afraid to try things. I mean, when you think about my other son, he writes, he gets it into the hands of people. He's got 3 scripts floating around Hollywood right now. So we're hoping one of them is going to hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote a book called Pokergeist, and it's about a ghost. It's a funny book. He wrote it under the name Michael Philip Cash, and it's about a ghost that kind of hooks on to this loser who wants to play poker, and he wants to get into the World Series of poker. He calls it something else. But he wants it, and so he does it by, the ghost cheats because he can see everybody's hands. And what ends up happening is it's a journey of self-discovery. It's a funny book. It's a hysterical book. And it's got a twist ending. All of his books have twists at the end. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. But, just to go back to what you said earlier, you said something that was real intriguing to me. You said that when you was writing the books, you was writing about things that you were interested in. And, when you said it made me think, because I'm working on a project myself right now. And I heard somebody say something and it kind of resonated with me, because when you can put yourself in there, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're putting yourself into that character or into that book, it makes it more real for you. And what I find is what's unique with you and your sons is that, because somebody just told me this the other day, we were talking and said something. A lot of people, like creators like yourself and like others, and maybe, myself as well. When you are a creator, it's hard to get over or be able to explain your creativity to people that's not in your space. And so sometimes you feel alone, but when you can be involved and talk to other people that have that mindset like you, it becomes easier. But a lot of times, if you don't have that type of support, you're on an island by yourself.
But that's with everything. We need community. We don't have community anymore. So you have to go and look for community. And for instance, when I lost my husband, I needed the community of bereaved people. Everybody meant well, but 5 minutes later, they were on to their next thing. And it's like they didn't have time for my grief. So I had to go and find a community that I could sit and they would understand. We didn't even have to talk. We all knew how each other felt. You have a birthday coming? Yeah, he's not going to be here. I know how you feel. Oh, yeah, you have Thanksgiving and everybody's invited and it's New Year's Eve and you always spent it with 5 couples and they're all going to be together and you're going to be alone. So you go to a bereavement group, and that's what I urge people when I do readings, with a person who's lost a very important person in their lives. I tell them, a bereavement group really helped. You don't have to love these people. You don't even have to enjoy them. But this is that connection. So I joined Goodreads when I wrote, and I created 2 threads that we had close to 10,000 people following us. So I did it with a bunch of co-writers, friends. We wrote books together, or at one point we created a magazine together. We would get on there and just discuss, what are you doing? What are you doing? How are you handling this problem? I'm having a problem with this format, or who should I use? And we created community. And I loved it because when I was doing that, I was in my 50s. I started writing in my 50s. We were a community that didn't see or know each other. So it was so beautiful because I made friends with people they made friends with me, even though old, and I had some young people on there and we were really close, and they weren't prejudiced because they couldn't see that, like if they met me in a supermarket, they'd say, that's an old lady. I don't want to listen to her. And yet we had this writing kind of community where we would talk to each other and give advice. It was really the best way to meet people, but we were all common in our goals that, would you read my story and let me know what you think? You have someone who could describe what scuba diving is like. I need a reference. I have a friend. Let me put you in touch with this friend. So we have this great community, and that's what people are missing. And unfortunately, that's what happened since, a lot of people are not going out to work. There's no collusion. There's no The people aren't exchanging ideas, and I miss that. I mean, we don't even go to the movie theaters anymore, do we?
I know ours around in our community be kind of empty. I mean, we have some that's pretty good because they got the reclining chairs and people can sit back and eat and drink and things of that nature. But like you say, as far as the things that we used to do, we from the old school, Phyllis. And you told me that you said you start writing in your 50s. You shocked me because you don't look like you're no older than 50.
I just this month I'm 70 and a half. I realized I'm halfway to 71. So wow. I started doing mediumship at 68. So that's another thing. You're never too old
to do what you're passionate about.
But you have to learn to reach out and find community.
You're the same age as my mother. So you graduated in 1972.
I did. Springfield Gardens High School. I was the vice president of the school. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Phyllis, as we get ready to wind down, I only have a few more questions for you before we get to our quick fire rapid five.
Sure.
So, tell us, Phyllis, as someone who led the boardroom and now in spiritual spaces, what do you see as the connection between business intuition and spiritual intuition?
Okay, it's really important. And that was something I realized as I recognized my abilities, not gifts, but abilities. I realized that my entire life, when I would go out to try to get an account, instinctively I knew to talk about this and not about that. Instinctively, I knew how to shut up and don't bring up a subject that might damage the relationship. Instinctively, I knew this is a no, this is a yes. And so you're using intuition without even realizing. That's what I'm saying. Everybody has abilities, but we don't even realize it. Even today, I was driving to work. I go to work in my neighborhood. I'm at work by 7 a.m. every day, in the office. I have an office. I share an office with my brother, who's blind, and he runs all of my corporations. He's completely blind, and he runs every corporation I own.
Wow.
So I go there, and we get the day started because in our field with the car service, it's 24 hours a day because it's all over the world. We're doing work in Taiwan. We're doing work in the Middle East. We're doing work in Africa. We're doing work in Europe. So we have cars all over California, Chicago. I have a huge affiliate in Chicago. So the point is, driving in, I said, I wonder what's going on with this issue, whatever the issue was. And it was like a 5-year-old issue. It popped into my head. As soon as I walked in to my office, one of my assistants came over and said, this came up, and it was that exact issue. And I laughed. I said, I was just thinking that this morning out of the blue. So is that intuition? Yes. Yeah. It's like, how did you know? I better show up to work today. I better not piss off that foreman. I know he's not going to be there. I better be there. And sure enough, he doesn't show up. So we're using intuition all the time. Just don't give it credit.
Yeah, all the time. Like, I knew that was going to happen. Like yesterday, matter of fact, just as you said that, I was at work. We wasn't doing anything. We was down. And I said, man, as soon as I get ready to close my eyes, I bet you he called.
Right.
And sure enough, soon as my feet up, Phyllis, he called on the phone. I said, I knew it. I knew it.
Right. Wait, how did you know it? Where did you get that information from?
Like you said.
Yeah.
So Phyllis. So everybody, you heard what Phyllis said. She does not have a couple of limousines. She has a fleet of limousines all over the world. So if whatever area you're in, check out Phyllis BLS Limousines because she has plenty of them to go around. So if you're going to that special event, you're going to that red carpet event in LA, wherever you at, Phyllis got you. BLS Limousines. So Phyllis, let me ask you.
Sure.
What does legacy mean to you today? And what's next besides the book that you're working on with your son? What's next for Lady Phyllis?
You know what? I'd like to develop the mediumship, get more classes going. I'd like to make more personal appearances where I go out and I read people. In fact, this Sunday I'll be out in Wading River doing a live show, so I'll do that. I like to write more books. I don't know if this book, Grady Will, gets picked up for a movie. I'll be writing a second book on it. It takes me between 3 and 5 weeks to write a book. Yeah. So I'm pretty quick. I get dedicated.
Wow. It took me 15 years. She said 3 to 6 weeks. That's amazing. So, Phyllis, are you ready for the quick fire round rapid five?
Bring it on.
Okay. Answer. Remember, with the first thing that comes to your mind, I bet you I'm going to get an eye out of you at some point today.
Okay.
One word to describe life after 70.
Exciting.
Good one. The best business decision you ever made.
Marrying my husband.
Oh, that's a good one. Most surprising message you've received in a session.
Someone's last breath. It was an amazing reading. I was reading somebody and I felt his breath shudder out of me. And I said to her, what had happened earlier in the reading, I said to her, you said something to your husband just as he died, but I couldn't get a beat on what she said. I figured it was like walk to the light or let go, but I knew it wasn't. And then I said to her, you climbed on the bed and you held him as he took his last breath. And I felt the breath shudder through me, and it was important. And she goes, yes. And she said, do you remember I said something to you earlier about, that you said that he took his last breath? And I said, yes. And she said, well, I was sitting next to him and I saw him stop breathing. So I climbed on the bed and I held him and I said, take one more breath from me. And he shuddered this one breath. And that was a profound moment for her and for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, man. You're doing great. One more question. Yeah, is always, sad when you lose someone, but that's the one to remember. One thing every woman should know about her power.
Don't let anybody put dust on your starshine.
I like that one. Don't let nobody put dust on your starshine.
Yeah. Make sure you shine and don't feel that you have to depend on someone else to make you shine.
That's the truth. And I live by that motto. Hey, so Phyllis, you did wonderful on here and you did it. And I knew because I told you everybody been stumbling. Phyllis, before I told you that, I didn't know that you can write a book in 3 to 5 weeks either. So there's no stumbling in you. So Lady Phyllis, thank you for reminding us that we're never done evolving. From building a global brand to becoming a spiritual teacher, your journey is a true testament to ageless power and purposeful reinvention. If this episode moved you, follow Phyllis at feelingbetter.naturally.love or connect with her courses and sessions through her social media pages. Matter of fact, Phyllis, where can we find you on social media?
www.ladyphyllis, LadyPhyllis.com, ladyphyllis.com. So I have a webpage. You can follow me on Facebook, Lady Phyllis Medium, and on Facebook, and I'm on TikTok, so you can find me on all of the different platforms.
She said, I'm not hard to find. I feel the same way. When I go on interviews, I do the same thing. I say, just Google up CJ Moneyway. I ain't hard to find. You'll find me on there. So, Phyllis, and remember, to my people in our closing, remember, big things are coming. Stay tuned for G.I. State's Capital animated series diving into power, purpose, and transformation, just like this episode. Follow me at CJ Moneyway for more updates. Until next time, keep growing, keep listening, and don't be afraid to rewrite your story. Hey, this your boy CJ Moneyway with my girl Phyllis from Rhode Island. Hey, there's nothing short going on in Rhode Island because they got 103 books between them, her and her son, and the other one's also doing things too. So we out of here. Peace.
Before you go, let me leave you with this. Every story shared here, it's a reminder that your story matters too. Keep your faith sharp, keep your focus steady, keep your vision clear. And if this episode gave you wisdom, hope, or a push forward, Share it with somebody you love. Tap in with me on all platforms, Edge Moneyway, and stay locked into the movement, because God's not done writing your chapter. This is the CJ Moneyway Show. Brick by brick, and always Moneyway.
Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. You need the right person with the right background who can move your business forward. If you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed Sponsored Jobs. With Indeed Sponsored Jobs, your post stands out to quality candidates who actually fit the role. According to Indeed data, 90% are more likely to be hired and trusted by 1.6 million companies. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. Now with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/Podcats13. Just go to Indeed.com/Podcats13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Podcats13. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed.
Happy holidays! Want to give your host a gift? Consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show this holiday season. It really helps the show grow. From all of us at Believe, have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy Holiday. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.